All right, it's showtime on a Tuesday night. Not sure what this means. Not sure what it's going to be like. Not sure how it's going to go, but it's a Tuesday night and we're here to hang out, talk a little Pitt sports on the live Panther-Lair Show. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. Jim Hammett from Panther-Lair.com will be joining us shortly. I hope. I sent him the invite link like literally 30 seconds ago or so. So, giving Jim short notice. Hopefully he'll still come around and join us. Hopefully he doesn't think that we ended up skipping it tonight. Jim knows what's up. Jim knows we're doing the live show tonight. It's on a Tuesday night. I'm unavailable tomorrow night, so I appreciate you accommodating us and moving your schedules around to join us here in the live Panther-Lair Show on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. While people roll in, I'll ask you to do what we always ask you to do for the people who are watching this later. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com is the place where you can get all of our Pitt video content. We have our daily morning Pitt shows that we do every day of the week, Monday through Friday. We have our weekly live show that we do here, usually on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, but tonight we're doing it this week we're doing it on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. So, a little bit of a change in the schedule. And if you're like, man, how could you change the schedule? How am I going to know that you changed the schedule? Well, the best way to know is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and turn on notifications. Then you'll get an alert sent to your phone every time we go live. So even if you missed it, I talked about it on the Morning Pit the last 2 days. Even if you missed it, even if you didn't know we changed it, if you didn't see the tweets or the posts on the message board or anything like that, you get a notification that says, hey, Panther-Lair is live right now. And then you're like, oh, live stream on a Tuesday. How about that? Is there some major breaking news? Nope. It's just what we're doing for our weekly show and moving it to a Tuesday. So, when we have these little schedule changes, which I'm sure we'll have throughout the summer, as different things come up and different, obligations present themselves, the best way to make sure you don't miss it is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It's the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. We covered all Panther-Lair.com and message boards to interact with other Pitt fans. All day, every day, Pitt fans are hanging out, talking about Pitt sports with other Pitt fans on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. That's the place to be if you were a Pitt fan. We've got a lot of coverage heading into the official visit weekend coming up. And that'll start on Thursday. So we'll have a full list of official visitors for you heading into the weekend. The visitors will be here Thursday to Saturday. Should be news that comes out of that because it's almost inevitable that there are going to be commitments. That's what we're expecting as always. And so we'll have a lot of coverage heading into the visit weekend and then throughout and after the visit weekend. So you want to make sure you don't miss anything. You can, if you want to make sure you don't miss anything, you can stay tuned at Panther-Lair.com. Let's bring in Jim now. Jim, get you on the right size there. Jim, I appreciate you accommodating us and switching up to a Tuesday night. What would you normally be doing on a Tuesday night at this time, Jim?
I don't know. I was out in the yard all day. I think you can see. You
look a little red.
Got a little fun. Yeah, I was trimming hedges and things, all kinds of fun stuff. Stuff
that a homeowner does, Yeah. That's what you gotta protect yourself though. You got to use the sunscreen, keep your hat on and all that stuff. I've become more conscious of wearing hats when I'm outside. Thinning out on top, want to make sure to protect the old scalp. Don't want to get a burned scalp. I think you keep your hair pretty tight. So I think you probably keep a hat on while you're outside, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. Josh Newark said you were talking trash on the Tuesday night live stream.
No, I just said Tuesday has no feel.
Is that like? I think I saw that it was like a Seinfeld meme.
They were having like a stakeout, and he's like, Saturday has a feel, Sunday has a feel, Tuesday has no feel.
Tuesday has no feel. Wednesday has more of a feel.
It feels like the weekly podcast for me.
Yeah, I hear you. Wednesday has no feel. Josh also asked, the question is, who are you seeing live tomorrow night? And actually, it's true. We're going to see Bleachers tomorrow night at Stage AE. So that's, are you familiar with Bleachers, Jim? Are you a Bleachers fan at all? Or
no, I thought your kids might have dragged you to go see Paul Skeens pitch against the Dodgers. I thought that's what was going on.
Wait, are the Pirates playing at home tomorrow night?
Yes.
Oh, God. That means parking. And Skeens is pitching?
Skeens is pitching.
So pitching's
Ohtani's in town.
Oh, parking's going to be a disaster. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I'm not taking the tee because it's going to be way too late for the kids to come home after the concert on the tee, but parking is going to be, well, there's plenty of parking. Actually, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
I usually
way down by stage AE, right? Like with the garage and stuff like that. I don't think it'll be.
Yeah, I just park where we park for football games, like in the garage. That's kind of
or some even like those surface lots right next to that garage. A lot of times have parking. I would bet even with the Pirates game, I bet those lots still have space, so that won't be a problem. But yeah, that is what I'm doing. So that's why we had to move the live stream. Jim, I appreciate you and everyone else accommodating us. I'm sure it'll be fun. Although, like I said, we're taking the kids to a concert, so I'm not really sure what to expect out of that. Let's see. What do we want to talk about, Jim? Do we want to talk about recruiting and official visits? Do you want to rank your top 5 quarterbacks in the Narduzzi era? Do you want to talk about... Those might be the two main things. Larry Fitzgerald's kid being in town.
Let's talk. We could talk about
from Pitt.
The 4 clips of the basketball scrimmage or open gym tonight.
Break it down, Jim. What did you see on the clips of the basketball scrimmage? You were excitedly texting the group text, the group chat, the Panther-Lair group chat. You were excitedly texting it, but I didn't get a chance to watch. So tell me what I need to tune in for here, Jim.
Brandon Cummings had a really cool behind the back pass in the lane to Cam Corrin. So that was cool. I think Ishmael Leggett drove to the lane. So did Damian Dunn. I think Brandon Cummings hit a 3. So I don't know. Brandon Cummings, he might be a big deal this year.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Brandon Cummings. Going to be a big deal, huh? This is what we're going with?
Yeah, I thought Steven would do like a full breakdown, like article on those 5 4-second clips.
Maybe he will. Maybe let me see if maybe I can maybe we can do this right now. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. All right. Can you see that, Jim? Is that working?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Let's go clip 1. Oh, we don't want the sound though. It's too loud. I can't. I need to get the. There we go. All right. So is that the pass you were talking about there, Jim?
Yeah.
Is that Cummings making the pass? Wow, behind the back. Oh, to a center who can score.
Yeah, it was weird.
Look at that. Who does he pass it between here? Who are we looking at? That's Guillermo and
Marlon Barnes. I can't tell.
Marlon Barnes.
I thought he
Look at that.
Wow, this is
like
pretty good. This is like draft analysts here.
It really is. Who is that back there? Is that one of the walk-ons? Maybe. I mean, this is Marlon Barnes back here, but he doesn't pass it between.
No, that's Corrin.
Oh, that's Corrin. Oh, right. Yeah, that's Corrin rolling. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that looks like Marlon Barnes. Okay. All right. Let's let it roll. Oh, that is a sweet pass going in for a dunk. Okay. All right. What's our next one here? What are we going to see? Do you know?
Just Ish being Ish.
Tarps off. Look at this. Nobody wants to defend him because look how sweaty he is.
Yeah,
I don't want to touch a guy.
That is a summer workout. Yeah.
That's. Don't they have air conditioning in that building? Jeez, guys. I mean, you're killing these guys. I know Ish. I think Ish is the only one tarps off in this video, right? Is that what we're? I mean, I don't see anybody else who felt the need to.
They weren't playing shirts and skins, just him.
Yes. they kept telling him, like, Ish, nobody said you had to take your shirt off. Nope, we got to do shirts and skins. All right, well, you're the only one then. All right, so he just dribbles past everybody here, right? I mean, there's a little bit of a fake screen. It's not even a real screen from Guillermo there. So he's just dribbling past everyone.
That's kind of what he normally does.
Yeah, that's kind of his game. And, no real physical presence. Where's Corrin here? Why isn't Corrin defending on this? Where's Corrin? No, he does like an obligatory little like swipe. You see this?
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure Coach Capel would want him kind of like stepping up and helping a little bit more, but
yeah. All right, let's see what our next one is here. What do we got?
I think this is Damian Dunn.
Oh, is that Dunn with the beard? Okay,
yeah.
So he's going around Guillermo. Is that what he's? Whoop. Yeah. Okay. All right, nice little play there. I'm excited about Damian Dunn. I mean, I think we've said we're excited about just about everybody joining this, but I think like. Cam Corrin's the big time center, and what's his face? Delalich coming in, and Brandon Cummings. Like, I feel like Damian Dunn. I think he's going to do a lot for this team. I think he's going to make some big contributions for this team. Obviously, if he can make drives like this against a center who's not interested in, Guillermo tries to defend a little bit,
to do something,
but he just couldn't quite get past it. All right. Let's see. It's our last one here. Is that done passing to Corin with a pull up?
A center with a jump shot. That's not Guillermo.
Corin pulling up. He's at the free throw line. He's at the elbow pulling up for that shot. Holy smokes. Look at that. Now Damian Dunn commanding a double team here, right? Is that what we're seeing? We're getting
it seems that way.
Because who is that who helps there? I mean, Ish is defending him, but who's the
I can't tell who that is.
Who's that? Cam Wright?
I think it might be Cam Wright. James Robinson.
I don't think it's either one of those guys. But he helps there and sort of. And now I appreciate, that nobody's really defending Cam Corin in this situation. This guy here, I don't know who.
I really don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's the only one who really attempts. Guillermo and nobody else. So are we seeing Delalich in this video anywhere, Jim?
No, he told me he wasn't going to be here quite till mid-June, but
okay.
I mean, obviously things could have changed since the interview after he committed.
Right. So there's one guy in the back here. I mean, we know Guillermo, but there's this guy.
Is that the walk-on from Hampton?
That's got it. Yeah, because I think Delalich looked a little bit more like gaunt, kind of a little bit skinnier. Yeah, that must be the kid from Hampton. You're right. All right. Is there anything else? That's it. 4 clips. Is there anything else we want to break down here?
I think that was it.
Our guy Tony Tennyson saying to put in that work. That's how you get that continuity. And somebody named Gaz saying Corin looks dangerous. And then Alpha Products with a comment on, no, that's just some nonsense bot because Twitter is broken. So good stuff. Any other? That's some good.
That killed some time.
Good. That wasn't the intention to kill time. The intention was to have.
I mean that was great
analysis
TV.
And breakdown. Yeah. There we go. I thought it was that's interesting. I didn't get a chance to look at those. So Josh Newark says he thinks it was shirts versus skins. I mean, maybe it was, and Ish was the only one who got the memo, but
or he took it upon himself.
Yeah, right. So are we? What's our main takeaway there? Cam Corin has a pull-up jump shot and can finish at the rim, right? And we have those two things. Damian Dunn can break guys down, and Ish is still Ish, and he likes to go tarps off.
Yeah,
is that it?
The pass was nice.
Yeah, that was a sweet little pass. Oh yeah, from Brandon Cummings, right? Yeah. Who we talked so much about his shooting, and then there he is breaking down with a pretty sweet pass. So. All right, good stuff.
That'll tide us over till November, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, hey, every time they release one of those, if they do it on the day of a live stream, we will. I'll get my screen share going again, and it'll be outstanding. The timing worked out perfect on that. Chris is a super chatter. He wants to know any updates on the ACC lawsuit. Is Pitt in trouble? I don't know about any updates on the ACC lawsuit. I always feel like there's a lot of posturing on both sides. Until it's done, it's not done. So I don't know. Have you seen anything new or interesting, Jim, as far as that goes?
Not really. I mean, I feel like with anything in college sports, it's like it's gonna happen like the day it happens. Like you never really get warning on these things. So if like Florida State's gonna like sue the ACC and go running to the Big Ten or something, like it'll just happen one day.
Right. And I would say Pitt is in trouble if that happens, just like the rest of the ACC is in trouble if that happens. Pitt is in trouble until they're not in trouble. You know what I mean? They're in trouble until they find a home that will provide stability and the necessary financial resources. And for now, that home is the ACC. And if and when that time comes, when that's no longer a home for stability and financial resources, then yes, Pitt is in trouble. I think what we said all along, and one of the main points is, I mean, Pitt needs to be preparing for that eventuality, and they needed to be preparing for that eventuality like a year ago, and have an idea of what they would do and where they would go and how they would survive. Just like everything that has happened with revenue sharing and NIL and everything that's sort of rolled out over the last month, 6 months, year plus. I mean, Pitt needs to be prepared for these things. They need to be forward-thinking enough to recognize that these things are coming and these things are going to happen. And they have to be prepared with a response and a reaction and their next move. And I don't know if they've been preparing for that or, planning for all eventualities and all those sort of things. They should have a lot of contingency plans in place. I don't know if they do, but they should. And if they don't, yeah, they're in big trouble. If they do have good contingency plans in place, then they should be able to survive. But I don't know. And a lot of it too, Jim, and maybe this is part of the worst. Some of this is sort of the worst part is like, it feels like a whole lot of it's out of their hands, right? Like they can't control what Florida State and Clemson do. They can't control if another conference is going to invite them. And some of it you're sort of waiting. You can make yourself as attractive as possible, but some of it you're just kind of waiting and hoping that you end up on the right side of it, that you end up with a seat at the table.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it's different this time around than maybe like, because it was like the Big East was definitely like gonna crumble, and like they had a big part in the Big East crumbling when them and when they left with Syracuse. But I mean that was just like, all right, we need more money. This needs to happen right now. Now they're in a better place than the old Big East, but they have no real place to go. There's no jump. There's no other ACC option out there. So yeah, it's just a waiting game.
Yeah, it is. And you hope that, I don't know, like, does it feel to you like the ACC or the Big 12 will survive, but not both, but definitely one? Or do you think they're both sort of on a death march?
I don't know if they're both on a death march, because there still like has to be something that happens to all these schools. I mean, like the Big 10 and the SEC aren't going to go to 40 schools, and there's still like enough recognizable brands in there that there's gonna be some sort of coalition, whether it's they both exist as they are now, just a little condensed, or if they kind of mesh together, or I don't know. I mean, it's again, who does know?
Right. No, nobody really knows. There's probably a few power brokers who have a pretty good idea, but for the most part, nobody really knows. Adam Vinchik wants to know, how many commits do you expect this weekend? He said Wednesday, but he means this weekend. So let's talk official visits, Jim. The official visits will start on Thursday. Kids will start coming in Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, evening, and they'll stay until Saturday. Our current count, tentative, subject to change, unofficial count for official visitors this weekend is about a dozen. Is that what we're looking at?
I have 12 on the list right now, but I think I'm waiting for 2 or 3 more people to respond to me to confirm one way or the other. But I think
two or three from that list, or 2 or 3 in addition to that list.
From that list, I want to make sure I have those guys here first, because I did have to remove some people earlier. So this thing it fluctuates a lot. I mean, whenever you start seeing these, like I'm taking my official visit June 6th, like they start like in February. I'm like, oh, yeah, you don't know what you're doing in June. I don't know. I know what I'm doing in June. I'm gonna see.
Yeah.
But yeah, these things change so much. So it's kind of funny whenever they get these graphics and send them out. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah. But I think you made the point earlier when we were texting of like, well, if a guy just sent out his graphic like yesterday, it's probably going to happen, right? I mean, like there's a better than even chance that it'll happen. Not a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee until they actually arrive in town, right? I mean, that's the only guarantee, is that when they're actually on the plane. And so nothing's really guaranteed. But if we take this list of 12 roughly where it is, I think 3 of them are already committed. Is that right? 4 of them are already committed. If all 4 of those guys come in, Mason Heinchel and Tony Kinsler and Trevor Summers and Bryce Yates, looking at the other 8, are there any guys that jump out to you as potential commit candidates? And I mean, everybody's a commitment candidate. Ezekiel Marcelin is the 4-star guy who's coming in this weekend. He's the highest rated guy to visit. But, is there anybody that jumps out to you that you're like, probably better keep an eye on that guy?
Well, going back to like some of the spring interviews I conducted there, I mean, Demarion Folks, a wide receiver from Maryland, and Max Hunt, from a tight end from Florida, both told me that Pitt was their number 1 school back in April. And so as of right now, the only official visits they have planned is this weekend to Pitt. So I have my eye on both of those guys. Justin Thompson, a linebacker, he's actually a teammate of Folks from Good Counsel. It's a pretty good program in Maryland. I think Pitt is his only official visit planned as well. I just talked to Byron Nelson, a lineman from Texas, the other day. I think it's Pitt, Vanderbilt, or UNC. So I don't know, but I mean, the guys that only have 1 official visit planned right now, I mean, those are kind of the guys you're always wondering about.
Yeah. That's a good sort of tip off. Have they, if they only have 1 visit planned, a lot of times, no, I mean, it's not 100% because nothing's 100%, but a lot of times those are guys to sort of keep an eye on. It's interesting to have Heinchel here on the first weekend. I mean, he's the quarterback in the class. You look kind of later in the other official visit weekends. There's, 4-star wide receiver is tentatively scheduled to visit next weekend. Some other, offensive skill guys kind of tentatively scheduled to visit. You look at this weekend, like there's the tight end, Max Hunt, like you mentioned, an offensive lineman, Byron Nelson, that you mentioned, Ja'Carrion Turner, the wide receiver, Jamarius Wilder. I guess there's a decent number of offensive skill guys, right? Out of those 8 uncommitted guys, 4 of them are offensive players. So, I mean, I was kind of curious, you want to get the quarterback around those guys to sort of act as a recruiter. Do you see opportunities for Heinschel to, potentially do a little work here?
Yeah, because the last time I talked to Heinschel, I think it was right after Bryce Yates committed, and I asked him, I was like, "Did you reach out yet?" And he said, "Oh yeah, we did. We already exchanged numbers, and we're on Instagram together, and so I think that was kind of part of like, all right, let's get them on the official visit together." And same with I think who else is going to be there? Is Kinsler going to be here this weekend? Yeah. So I mean, so you allow him to build that connection with 2 of the offensive skill players in his class. So I mean, I think he's the type of player, and I think most quarterbacks kind of fall in line this way, is that they're going to help recruit, and that's what you said. You kind of like strategically place when you have them do their official visit. So I mean, I think there's opportunities this week, and like I said, I mean, Folks and Hunt are 2 guys I have circled. I think Hunt is really the only tight end they have coming in for a visit as of right now. So, I mean, I think that's kind of noteworthy as well.
Yeah. There's that Bernard Blakey guy.
He's defense. There's a lot of
on defense. Okay. Yeah. But we list him as a tight end. Right.
Yes.
Right. Right. You just interviewed him, right?
Yeah.
Didn't
not
you
too
just
long
talk
ago.
to him. Yeah. He's like a PA kid. Is that right?
Yeah. Malvern
Okay.
Prep. So
that's right. It's tough to, sometimes tricky to keep track of these. Mason Heinschel is a guy who, the quarterback, he committed to Pitt. When did he commit? Back in March. And I feel like he's only gotten like more and more pub, some positive pub in the time since then. You look at him, he's not the biggest guy, but he's pretty mobile. I think that was one of the things that stood out with Cade Bell's early offers, where they were all, a lot of them were pretty mobile. They, could keep a play alive or scramble for stuff, or even run design runs. Do you feel like he's a guy they're going to have to fight to hold on to? I mean, we've seen it in recent years, and we saw with Kenny Minchie. Was that last year or was that 2 years ago? That was 2 years ago with Kenny Minchie. They missed out on some targets last year when guys sort of blew up and got out of their league. What's your read on Heinschel? What do you think of him?
I mean, he performed pretty well at the Elite 11 and like regional, I think, was in Columbus. So I know he got some high praise. I think even rivals bumped him up a little bit in the latest rankings bump. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he does go to the National Elite 11, because that's kind of where things happen for Kenny Minchie. That's wherever he blew up, and he was one of the best performers. And he stayed committed to Pitt for a while, but I think that's kind of where Notre Dame started to really track him, and other schools did as well. So I could see that happening with Heinschel. I mean, I asked him, I think the last interview was in April. Like, it was just, I just wanted to check in with him. And he said, "Oh no, I'm solid. This is my home, blah, blah, blah." But that's what every kid says. I mean, that's what every kid says until Ohio State calls, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's like, it's one of those things. So, I mean, I think he's solid. I think he's a good player. And yeah, I think if he gets in another one of those camp settings and, in front of national evaluators, that could definitely raise his profile again.
Yeah. You always keep an eye on like, other visits, other camps. Do they go work out places? And, what kind of attention do they draw? Let me see. So back to Adam's question. How many commitments? What's your number? Over, under? What are you setting the over, under at?
Let's do 3.5.
3.5. Okay. You taking the over or are you taking the under?
I could buy the over.
Buy the over? Okay. I like it. Chris had I assume it's the same Chris, had a follow-up super chat question. He says, does Heather Lyke have a plan to integrate the NIL system into the university? I feel like being proactive on this will pay dividends for Pitt. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if Heather Lyke and the athletic department have put together a plan. I know that, or I definitely get the sense that they were slow to get on board with NIL to begin with. And I don't know if that's due to Heather Lyke having a background in compliance. I think people who have come up in compliance professionally were generally slower to get on board with NIL because it felt like it went against everything that they had always worked for and everything they believed in. I think that might be part of it. I think there was always sort of that push and pull of how much do we want to encourage donors to donate to the alliance when that's money they could be donating to us. I think there was always sort of a conflict there for the university and for the athletic department. But I think they have come around a little bit. I think Heather Lyke has come around a little bit. I don't think it's too little too late, but it could always be more and it could always happen faster. So I'll say this, all that being said, I'll say this. If they don't have a plan for integrating NIL into the athletic department, they're failing in their job. Like, that plan needs to be laid out. So the moment they can do it, they jump right in and they take it over. You know what I mean? Like you have to have this ready. You cannot not be prepared for this because now you know it's coming, right? It's not going to be a surprise. You know this settlement is coming. You know that NIL will go under the university umbrella. You have to have the whole operation ready to go. So you just flip the switch and boom, it's all operating, right?
Yeah, I think those first couple of years, there was a lot of unknowns about NIL, and I think it even took Pitt a while to get the whole Alliance 412 up and running. But I mean, you saw signs in the past year that they were kind of working with one another. I think there was links to, you could donate to Alliance 412, or like they kind of advertised at games. And so I think there's kind of more of that connection, or, at least understanding that we need to work with one another. So I mean, and the thing with Alliance 412, like all the people running it are Pitt people. Like they even used to work for Pitt, like in some cases. So I think it's going to be a smooth transition, but it's still interesting to see where, I guess, like, I don't know, NIL's place is going to be after the settlement, after schools are sharing revenue, because the bulk of the payments are going to come from the school directly. I mean, NIL is still going to have a place. I just don't know what place.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. It's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of boils out. Byron Flex says, if Pitt can't fully fund its $20 million annual player cap, what are the consequences to Pitt and especially its football program? I mean, I think you put yourself, you make yourself weaker in terms of recruiting and player acquisition, right? If you're the school that says, yeah, we're not going all the way up to the cap with revenue sharing, that'll get used against you because it's a choice you're making. You know what I mean? Whether you have the resources or not, you're choosing not to give the players as much as you can possibly give them. So, that's the consequence, is that it's going to be held against you in recruiting. And so I don't see them ever falling short of that cap, for football at least. They're going to go up to as much as they possibly can, right? I mean, there's no, you have to.
Yeah, I think the consequences fall on other sports. I mean, like, I think football and basketball are always going to be taken care of first, then you kind of fall in line. So I think we've had this discussion last week. It's like, yeah, there's going to be some sports at every school in the country that are going to be on this quote unquote chopping block. I mean, it just is what it is. Not everyone's going to want to fund 30 athletic programs whenever they have to take care of football and basketball first. I mean, that's what this whole thing is about. I mean, it's getting to a point wherever it's just going to be these main few sports. You're not going to see these athletic departments 30 teams deep anymore. I mean, Pitt has 18 and whatever it is, 17. I mean, that's kind of like the low end, but I think more and more schools are going to kind of drop to that number.
Yeah. We've talked about it the last few weeks about cutting sports and what that's going to look like and what could be on the chopping block. I'm still worried about baseball. Like, the more I think about it, like, that is the one that I just keep coming back to and worrying about. And it's not the only one, but I just, concerned. Byron Fleck also, after we were talking about ACC lawsuits and stuff, Byron says the latest big development in the ACC litigation is that all the Power 5 conferences have joined the ACC in quashing FSU's effort to obtain the ESPN ACC contract. Yeah, I did see a little bit about that. I thought it was interesting that the other conferences were like, no, we don't want you to do that either. I'm sure they have all their own motivations. I don't really know what they are. I don't really care. There's so much talk and there's so much posturing by Florida State, more so, and Clemson to some extent, that I'm at a point where it's like, not at a point of, okay, fine, just pay off the rest of the schools and leave. I don't think you ever get to that point where you say this isn't worth the annoyance anymore. It's always going to be worth the annoyance. Like, it's always going to be worth having Florida State running its mouth as long as they're still in the conference. If it gets to a point where they are leaving, fine, then pay off the schools and go. I'm at a point where I'm like, wake me up when they either leave or drop their efforts to go. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to hear, and I don't need to see like the Florida State websites on my Twitter timeline saying, this is the one. This is the spot where the Florida State finally got it. The Board of Regents are putting their foot down. They put their foot down so many times. I don't think they have any feet left. I don't need to see this anymore. Like, the number of victory laps I've seen from like Florida State blogs and fan sites and other websites over the last like 2 years, it's ridiculous. And not one of them has done anything to get Florida State out of the ACC. Oh, this is the thing the ACC did not want to see. No, nothing's changed. You guys keep running your mouths. Clemson is just sitting back, letting you do all the hard work and make a big fuss about it, waiting to see what actually will come of it. But otherwise, like, I just don't care. Like, if eventually you're able to go, great, go pay everybody else. And until then, keep playing in this conference.
That's kind of where I am too. I mean, the thing with like Florida State, it like, if they had like the entire backing of the Big Ten wanting Florida State to get in, they would have figured out a way to get this out. So there has to be some reservations on the Big Ten or SEC's part that they aren't really bending over backwards to make this happen. Like, they can wait this out, let them sit through this contract and take them in 10 years or whenever this runs out. Like, there's no rush on their end.
Yeah. Mark Shilaju says, now that we have revenue sharing, will players be able to opt out of bowls without financial consequence? Also, how does revenue sharing impact NIL money for players? I haven't seen anything about bowl games specifically. I would definitely be like, well, here's the revenue from the bowl. You get it if you were like, I don't know what you say. You don't say if you played in the bowl. You don't say if you're present, because guys could be present and in uniform and just not play. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know exactly how you enforce it. It would be nice to tie something to it. What it'll probably end up being, like, I think the bowl game solution, and other people have suggested this, the bowl game solution is that the bowls pay the players, like an NIL thing. You know what I mean? They do an NIL deal with the players to get them to stay. And if they want to do NIL deals with like the big name guys, if the Sun Bowl really wanted to get Izzy Abanikanda to play in that game, or Brandon Hill or Kalijah Cansey. I guess Cansey was hurt. Was he hurt at that point?
Yeah, maybe he was. Yeah.
Haba Baldonado, you know what I mean, was hurt also. But if they want to get those big name guys to play, you know, then you come up with the NIL money. And I think that's ultimately where, you know, that'll be the ultimate move there. I don't know if maybe revenue sharing won't really be tied to it, because I don't know how you can make an NIL deal that says you have to participate in the game. Maybe your coach will just put you out there for one snap and say that qualifies. But I think that's probably the way to do it. How does revenue sharing impact NIL money for players? I don't know that there's a direct, you know, I don't know if there's, you know, there isn't a literal connection, but I think probably the idea is, and what they've talked about is that there'll be more guidelines on NIL, right? That it's going to be far more like actual name, image, likeness usage, name, image, likeness rights, and like transparency and structure, so that, you know, the market value of, like, you know, did, you know, a car dealership give you a truck and $750,000 and your advertising is driving around in the truck, you know, like something a little bit, making it a little bit more legitimate. So revenue sharing doesn't necessarily impact that, but it is seemingly going to be part of the settlement that is creating revenue sharing. So I don't know. What do you have thoughts on those two questions?
Yeah, on the second one, like what you just talked about, I mean, I think in like some of those articles, whenever they announced this big settlement or whatever, is like they were going to get back to true NIL. And what I took true NIL was Kenny Pickett having dinner at a restaurant, and not, you know, Pitt having to pay for a shooting guard to come in and play on the basketball team. I mean, I think it's going to be your actual name, image, and likeness. And, you know, you can be in the video game, or you can sell your jersey and stuff like that. I mean, it's gotten to the point where you remember like last year's like the entire Texas Tech offensive line just gets $50,000 just because, or something like that. I think there's going to be less of that. I think they want it to be true NIL. I mean, obviously there's going to be some schools that figure out a loophole and do their thing and, whatever. I mean, that's how it always has been. But yeah, I mean, with bowl games, I think it's interesting. Isn't there a college basketball tournament this year, like one of the November tournaments, and it's like a winner take all type situation, or I forget.
Yeah.
But
like, is it like an early season thing? It's like an in-season.
Yeah.
Maybe people would just have like speculated that eventually the NIT will turn into something like that, like a money related thing.
I think that's what
I forget.
This is.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Pitt's not in it. Pitt's in the Greenbrier.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. We were looking at how much it costs to go down there, and yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, but that's like, I think it's easier to opt out of bowl games because they're at the end of the season. You know what I mean? As opposed to something in December. But at the same time, if that lays out sort of the format and the blueprint for how to do it, yeah, I can see bowl games. But I don't know if bowl games make enough money to do things like that anyway. And so many of these bowl games do like charity events and stuff. So now you're going to be like, oh, look, the college kids are taking the money away from like that's being raised for charity through the bowl game. But I mean, I've been to some of these Birmingham bowls that there's not a lot of people in the stands. So I don't even know how much money the bowl games could make to
well, they get like gifts, like they get like a backpack with like clothes and shoes and stuff. But like now the backpack needs to be filled with cash.
Yeah, it's got to be straight cash. So like they'll have sometimes they'll have the gift suite where you go in and you walk around the room and you can pick out a thing, and it might be like a Best Buy gift suite or a Nike gift suite or whatever it is. And like there have been some where like guys got like Lazy Boys and stuff, and they would like ship it to you, whatever you chose. So it'd be funny if you just went into the gift suite and like every table was just like stacks of $100 bills, and like you pick which stack you want, and like, hey, did you get that stack? Oh, that was a good stack. Good choice. Josh Newark says, is the running back from Dallastown and the former teammate of Kenny Johnson taking an official visit? I'm drawing a blank, Jim. Who's the running back from Dallastown?
Michael Scott, the receiver from
the wide receiver who committed to Arizona State.
No, he is not taking an official visit.
No, he was going to, right? Had he talked about that, or did he ever put a date down? Or
he put Pitt in his top 7, but I didn't see any type of date get scheduled. I think he was at the spring game. I'm pretty sure he was at the spring.
That sounds about right. Yeah. It was somewhat recently. Okay, so we'll cross that one off the list. Kenny Gizmo says, unfortunately, Pitt will not spend the needed money to be competitive with the big-time football schools. I think they're going to do what they can up, to the cap as far as revenue sharing. I think, they will cut things and eliminate things and do whatever they can to make that money happen. Some element of it is going to be how far do they go, for the extra mile? How far do they go to get to generate that, NIL money and generate those NIL donations and that kind of thing. They're not going to have the facilities that other schools have. They're not going to pay the coaches what other schools pay. But I think whatever they can do within revenue sharing so that it's not held against them. Like, oh, look at Pitt. They don't spend the whole revenue money. I think they'll do whatever they can in that regard. Because like we said earlier, it'd be mismanagement not to. TRR says Pitt has mismanaged athletics since 1938. They better be ready for the winds of change on the horizon. No more looking down on athletics from high up the cathedral. Well, Pitt just changed chancellors, but Patrick Gallagher was pretty strong in favor of and support of athletics. I think as much as any chancellor in recent memory, he supported athletics. He said yes to a lot of things. When Heather Lyke asked for things or her coaches asked for things, he said yes to a lot of things. I think he was a good supporter of athletics. We'll see how, the new chancellor, she's obviously got some other things to deal with this week, but we'll see how her position. It seems like she's in favor of athletics and understands athletics and understands the importance of athletics. But we'll see. But I don't think, those sort of age-old complaints about not having the support on high, they don't really seem to carry water anymore. Now, there still might be mismanagement going on. There still might be incompetence. There still might be, bad budgetary and financial decisions. But I think they've at least got the support from the cathedral that for now, I don't think we can hold that one out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And like just with these past two comments, I mean, I think there's, still going to be a hierarchy in college sports. I think there's still going to be Alabama, there's still going to be Ohio State, and it's still going to be Pitt. Like they're just going to fall in line differently, but I still think Pitt's going to put forth the $20 million to at least revenue share with the players. I mean, some other things might not be up to par with Ohio State, but that's how it's always been. I don't think much changes in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. TR also wants to know, is Kenny Johnson the best candidate on offense to have a breakout season? What do you think?
Is that like a word for word question not from TNR, but like somebody else asked that question last week someone asked who our breakout candidates were.
Okay.
And I think I landed on Kenny Johnson.
Okay. So you're sticking with that?
Yeah. I'm okay.
I'm not getting on board the Desmond Reed hype train, but it is building momentum.
It's growing.
It is. I mean, Pat Narduzzi keeps talking him up all offseason. He's been talking him up, and he hasn't really slowed down in that regard and backed off. And so I'm getting curious. I would say that I still think Rodney Hammond's the guy. I'm still a big Rodney Hammond guy, but I'm getting curious about Desmond Reed and what he might be able to do in this offense. So Kenny Johnson, probably. Desmond Reed, maybe. Could Gavin Bartholomew have a breakout season if he catches like 45 passes for like 600-700 yards and like 8 touchdowns? Would that be a breakout season, even though he's been around, for 4 years and he's been productive when he's given the opportunity?
I don't think he's ever had a 30 catch season, so 45 would be huge.
Right. But would you count it as a breakout, though, given that he's been a regular feature of the offense for the last 3 years?
Regular feature is kind of
who else was a regular feature at tight end over the last 3 years?
Well, he was a tight end and he was on the field. I don't know if he was a feature player in the offense. No, I think if he does any kind of good season numbers wise, I think it would be a breakout for him, because we hear all the time how he's great. I think Pitt fans think he's a first round pick at tight end, and I think he's a good player. There's still a lot of lack of production out of his game.
Yes, but is it his fault? No, it's not. Josh Newark says if Gavin Bartholomew has those numbers, it's the offensive coordinator who has the breakout season. Or they could just throw him the ball. How about that? Like, it's not about like, some genius decision to do. It's like, this is the easiest thing in the universe. Throw the ball to the guy wearing number 86. Because good things happen when you do. Right? We're on our narrow screen, so you can't see. I'm doing that like shrug thing.
I thought there would be like an animation coming up, but nothing. It's gonna be you tomorrow.
The lasers?
Stage A.
Yes. Just throw him the ball. Just throw him the friggin' ball, man. Jeez. All right. Quarterbacks, Jim. So I wrote about this over the weekend. I ranked the top 5 quarterbacks of the Narduzzi era.
Okay.
I think everybody's in agreement that 1 and 2 are easy, right? 1 and 2 are easy. No problemo.
I actually didn't see I forget if I might have did quarterbacks last year. So
yeah, you might have.
So I'm wondering if we matched up the same. That it would be too hard to find right now, but
yeah, I remember looking at it actually, and but I forget what you said. So 1 and 2 are easy.
Pickett, Peterman.
Okay. And then what?
Yeah, I remember running into this problem in the past. This is a familiar thought I've had. I don't know. Keaton kind of has to be up there because last year was just an utter debacle. DiNucci, Max Brown. Who else do we have? Chad Boydick. I'm just like rattling off people who have started.
Yeah. Hey, Chad Boydick was 2-0 as a starter under Pat Narduzzi.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean he's good. That doesn't mean he should be in the top 5. So there have been 11 starting quarterbacks under Narduzzi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. 6 of the 11 have winning records as starters. So would we say we eliminate all the guys with losing records as candidates for those final 3 spots? I mean, Max Brown was 2-3. Ben DiNucci was 2-4. Joey Yellen was 0-2. Dracovic and Bayer were 1-4, both 1-4. So that leaves the other 6 guys. Pickett and Peterman, obviously. Chad Wojcik was 2-0. Nick Patty was 2-1. Slovis was 7-4. And Nate Yarnell was 2-1. Wojcik was 8-7 as a starter at Pitt, but only 2-0 under Narduzzi, and he lost the job in his second start. I think we eliminate him, right?
Yeah, that's
okay. If we eliminate him, that leaves 5 guys. That leaves our top 5 basically in order chronologically: Peterman, Pickett, Patty, Slovis, Yarnell. So that's what we're talking about for the top 5 quarterbacks of the Narduzzi era. Is those 5 guys: Pickett, Peterman, and then those other 3. Slovis, Patty, Yarnell. Only one of them even started a whole season.
Yeah.
Like, after I typed out the list of names and typed out their records, I just sat back. I was like, what a pile of not goodness. I mean, not good. I mean, like, and somebody debated with me about Keaton. So I put Keaton Slovis at number 3 because he went 7-4. Even though knowing full well, he had very little to do with at least 3 of the 4 wins that closed the season. You know, I mean, like, I think Marquez Williams and MJ Devonshire had more touchdowns than he did in that month. Yeah. You know, the Duke game, the Syracuse game, I don't think he had a whole lot to do with those. He threw the ball to Jared Wayne like 27 times in the Miami game, so he gets a little bit of credit for that. He had a 300-yard game against West Virginia, which was good, but MJ Devonshire was the big play there. He pretty much cost them the Georgia Tech and Louisville games because he was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference between 8-4 and 10-2. There's the great what if of, you know, what if he doesn't get hurt against Tennessee? You know, how does he play the rest of the season? Maybe they even beat Tennessee if he doesn't get hurt. But, like, I can't really sit here and say Keaton Slovis played well in his year at Pitt.
Oh, no.
And yet I can't rank Nick Patty ahead of him. And as of right now, I can't rank Nate Yarnell ahead of him. So this is the 3rd best quarterback of the Pat Narduzzi era. Is Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
I mean,
when you have one guy that starts for like 4+ seasons, that kind of, and how many was this? 10 years of Pat Narduzzi now?
This is 10, so it's been 9 seasons.
So
Pickett started 49 games, and Peterman started another 24. So you're talking about 73 out of 115 games were started by 2 guys.
Yeah.
But that's Pickett started for 18, 19, 20, 21, 4 seasons. Peterman started for 2. So that's 6 out of 9 seasons. What does that say, though, about the other 3 seasons? About the quarterback play at the other 3 seasons, that the best we can find out of those 3 seasons is Keaton Slovis?
Exactly what it says. I mean, I think we've had, you know, these talks over the years about, like, so the offensive coordinators have had some mismanaged recruiting, you know, situations. I mean, like, Mark Whipple never really seemed all that interested in actually leaving Pittsburgh and going to recruit. So that was part of it. Frank Signetti, he never really had time to, like, get one of his quarterbacks to establish, but I think he lost. Kenny Minchie was the best quarterback he was recruiting and lost him. Yeah. Sean Watson was Sean Watson. So, yeah, I mean,
Watson recruited Nick Patty, and I guess Whipple recruited Yarnell, although he did that over Zoom because Yarnell was getting recruited during the COVID period. So he wasn't able to go on.
It's perfect kind of recruitment.
It was exactly what Whipple would have liked. Yeah, Matt Canada recruited Kenny Pickett. Jim Chaney brought in Peterman. I don't know. And then I guess I put Nick Patty at number 4 behind Slovis, pretty much on the strength of, like, 1 pass against UCF, like a touchdown pass against Central Florida,
Mm-hmm.
2 rushing touchdowns against Florida State, a rushing touchdown against Michigan State. I'll give him that.
That's a
Knocked him
cool
out of
play.
the game,
Yeah.
but it was a good play. Did he have a touchdown in the Tennessee game? Did he throw a touchdown pass?
Yeah, it was like a 4th down to like Jared Wayne to tie the game or something like that.
So I'll give him credit for that. And then the Sun Bowl. And the Sun Bowl, it's really about like 3 plays.
No,
Because
he was terrible.
Kind of garbage. He was under 50% completion. He was like 5 yards per attempt. Except for when he got the ball with 30 seconds left, he made 2 big passes. And then the like ballsiest play I've seen in a long, long time, and maybe the ballsiest play I'll see in a long, long time, when he tucks the ball in 2nd down and runs. I still can't get over that. I rewatched that highlight the other day, just as I was like putting that together. I still can't believe he made the decision to run there. Like,
yeah.
Not like you could put 100 quarterbacks in a room and 99 of them are throwing the ball away there. They're like, drop back, nothing's there. Like, the thing I want is not there, throw the ball away. And this dude tucks the ball and runs. If Nick Patty gets tackled short of the 1st down marker, like,
the game's over.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game's over, they lose. Does Nick Patty then not make the top 5? Do I put him behind like Max Brown or something? Like, do you drop Nick Patty out of the top 5 quarterbacks in the Narduzzi era if he does not reach that 1st down?
Yeah, I mean, because like, what is he, 2-1? You said,
yeah,
he drops below 500.
He would be 1-2. He would be 1-2 as a starter.
That was like the defining moment of his whole career. I mean,
it really, really was, and it was amazing. It was an incredible play. But I mean, that's what we're boiling it down to.
Yeah.
And then Nate Yarnell, like, I mean, the stats are pretty good. Low volume, small sample size, but the stats are pretty good. I actually think. Now, I think that the hype. I mean, I've been building the hype in the last couple of weeks. Like, I can conceivably see Nate Yarnell climb to like number 3 when we do this ranking next year.
It wouldn't be that hard to. It's not he should get past Nick Patty, like like in like 3 games. Like, if he beats Kent State, he might do it. I don't know.
It's not even like a hill to climb. It's just like a, I don't even, like a crack in the sidewalk to step over. It's not that far to get him to get there. I mean, like you said, at the very least, he passes Patty, and like if they go like 8-4 this year, I mean, obviously the record, he would be 10-5 as a starter. So the record would improve over Slovis. But if they go 8-4 this year, he's probably going to have a better year than Slovis did, I would assume. And so if they can get there, all of a sudden Nate Yarnell is the 3rd best quarterback of the Pat Narduzzi era. That's wild. That's wild. Josh Newark says, I'm looking at the quarterback era of Narduzzi. You can say only Peterman in 2016 and Pickett in 21 actually had statistically good years. And Peterman in 16 is slightly inflated because of Clemson and Q's. Well, it's giantly inflated because of Syracuse. Clemson was just a great game. He threw for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Yeah. Like, that doesn't inflate your stats. You just had a really good game. If you're going to have a decent stat line, you're going to have some really good games. I think the legend of Nate Peterman is inflated because of the Clemson game. If that game goes the way everybody expects it to go, and he throws for like 242 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, or 1 touchdown and 1 pick or something like that, if he doesn't throw 300 yards and 5 touchdowns to lead a win, we don't talk about Nate Peterman. We don't talk about that 2016 season in the same regard. Like they still had the Penn State game, which would have been like made that year a little bit. But I mean, like, ultimately, it was an 8-5 season. Same thing as 2019, when they just weren't very good. Same thing as 2015. It was an 8-5 season. It was an 8-4 regular season, just like 2022. It wasn't all that remarkable a year. They just had a huge win against Penn State and a gigantic program-defining win at Clemson. But they had a whole lot of crap in there, too. Never mind the Carolina and Oklahoma State games. They were crap at Miami. And what was the other loss in the regular season? Oh, the Virginia Tech game. That was a disaster. I mean, that was a disaster of the pass defense. That's not Peterman's fault, but,
they had to burn DeMar Hamlin, an injured true freshman cornerback, just to like get through that game. Like it was that bad.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. And you know what? TRR makes a good point. He says 8-4 at Pitt is a good season. It is. I actually shouldn't say it like that. But we hold up 2016 as one of the great of Narduzzi's best seasons. It wasn't. It was. I mean, it was. They went 8-4, and that's good. And they had some signature wins, and because of those signature wins, we elevated above some of the other 8-win seasons. But like, they still had some stinkers. You know what I mean? They still had some clunkers that kind of, I think we overlook both about that team and about Nate Peterman. We overlook because of the Clemson game. Now, if there's any game that's going to give you reason to overlook clunkers, that's a pretty good one to choose.
Yeah.
You know, one of your program defining wins.
Yeah. I mean, handing the national champions their only loss that season, that was, pretty good. I mean, I guess we would have looked at it a little bit better if like Peterman and Connor didn't get hurt in the first quarter against Northwestern, and they probably just would have beat them. And everyone, 9-4 just looks better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that's, there's always those what ifs, Who inherited a slower defense? Dave Wannstedt from Walt Harris or Pat Narduzzi from Paul Christ?
That's a good question. They both went about it the same way, but I just like, we got to get the defensive line fixed first.
That's the key. Yeah.
Yep.
That was the key. And like in terms of speed, well, I was going to say Wani inherited a slower defensive line, but they were also small too. That unit was not very good, and it took a couple years to rebuild. But I don't know. Narduzzi managed to make something out of that Pitt defense in 2015, at least. 2016, not so much. TRR follows up, says, to this day, the 2004 Pitt defense was the slowest defense in modern college football history. I don't know, man. I feel like 2003 was a bigger problem. Like they when they couldn't stop the run against Virginia Tech or Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I think they still won the Virginia Tech game, but it was a Julius Jones and Kevin Jones. Both just ran all over them in those two games.
Marcus Vick. Was it Marcus Vick? Was he the quarterback?
It's a good question.
I think he was.
Maybe. He might have been. But Kevin Jones. Well, I forget which Jones played which place.
Kevin Jones played at Virginia Tech.
Okay. He ran all over them. I think Kevin Jones and Julius Jones both set school records for single game rushing in the game against Pitt, which is how you know that your run defense is really good. Josh Newark says, was 2004 the Ray Rice game? No, that was 2006 when Pitt was 6-1. They had won 6 out of their first 7 games, but the only like real game they played was Michigan State, and they lost that one. Excuse me. But that 2006, they were 6-1, and then they lost their final 5 in a row to finish 6-6. And the first loss in that 5-game losing streak was Ray Rice Rutgers in 2006, and he like busted off a long run to open the second half or something, and that kind of that ended that. Fun memories there. That was when Dave Wannstedt had lots of problems beating Rutgers. Lost in 05, 06, 07, and 08.
They had like HB Blades like wear a Rutgers shirt like kind of jokingly around the building, like
probably
leading up to that game, like, oh, we're not going to lose to Rutgers again.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
And they did, which is far worse than Pitt's like North Carolina streak after joining the ACC. No matter how bad North Carolina got, it was never as bad as losing to Rutgers 4 years in a row. Like Walt Harris didn't even lose to Rutgers like that. I mean, nobody lost to Rutgers like that. But for 4 years in a row, Dave Wannstedt could not beat Rutgers. So you got that going for you, which is unpleasant. And then he bounced back for 2 years, and then in 2011, they absolutely took Todd Graham's Pitt team to the woodshed and just crushed them with like half of Pitt's old coaching staff on staff at Rutgers. So all of those guys took it really, really personal that they got fired, and they beat the crap out of Pitt in 2011. These are good memories to close on.
Oh, yeah.
This is fun thinking about guys like Ray Rice and Tim Brown and all those other random Rutgers guys who killed Pitt. The 2008 game was terrible. 2008. We'll close on this memory. All week talking about Rutgers and their running game and how much they're going to run because Greg Schiano is basically a Dave Wannstedt clone. They're just going to run. and I think it was Mike Teal was their quarterback, and he threw for like 300 yards in the first half. They just ran play action over and over and over and over and over and over again. Just and like Pitt never changed, never adjusted, and just got killed. So that was fun. That's a good time. Josh Newark points out Dave Wanstead going for 2 against Navy. I don't think he went for 2 against Navy. They used their 2-point conversion play to try to score from the goal line against Navy, and it was a pass, despite the fact that LaShawn McCoy and Conrad Collins were averaging like 6 or 7 yards per carry each. They were lined up at the goal line and went for a pass.
Was that the Wednesday game?
Yeah. It was like a Wednesday or Thursday night. Yeah, it was a midweek game. I think I think it was like a Wednesday. Yeah, it was in 2007. That was. I feel like that game. It was either that game or the Connecticut game where Paul Zeiss in his lead for his game story said that the Pitt band should start learning Celine Dion's love song theme from Titanic because the ship is going down at Pitt. I was like, damn, Zeiss. That's cold.
Yeah,
that's how it felt. It was an ugly time, man. It was an ugly time.
That was the smallest crowd I've ever seen, too. The Wednesday game.
Yeah. John Christovich says they went for 2. I don't think they went for 2.
I thought they did. It was a fade pass to freshman Jonathan Baldwin.
No, it was Daryl Strong because Baldwin didn't join the team until 2008. This game was in 2007. Baldwin was a freshman in 2008.
Okay.
But I think it was their 2-point play. They tried to use their 2-point play and a spot at the goal line. Because what was the final score of that game? They lost.
It's like 47-45 or something.
48-45. It was 48-45. And let me see. Hold on. I'm just looking at the box score here. Yeah, it was 48-45. Pitt had the ball at the Navy 2. No, they got the ball at the Navy 25. I don't know how they got the ball at the Navy 25, but maybe there's a long. Oh, it was overtime. Oh, it was in overtime. Okay, so they both scored a touchdown in overtime. Navy kicked a field goal in overtime. Pitt got the ball at the 25. Bostic threw a complete pass to Marcel Pastano for 16 yards. First and goal at the 9. McCoy rushes 6 yards to the 3. Second and goal at the 3. McCoy rushes for another yard. Okay, so now it's third and goal at the 2. Bostic incomplete pass to Nate Byam. Timeout Pitt. Fourth and goal at the 2. Incomplete pass to Daryl Strong. And that's what it was. And so people talk about it being 2 points because it was the 2-point play. They said it after the game. Yeah, that was our 2-point play. Yeah, they could have they could have kicked a field goal to tie, but they went for it. But they went 2 plays from the 2 and didn't hand it off to LaShawn McCoy or Conrad Collins. And just to remind you, McCoy was 32 for 165, averaged 5.2 yards per carry. Collins 9 for 52, averaged 5.8 yards per carry. LaRod 3 for 15, averaged 5 yards per carry. So each of those guys, combined, they were all averaging more than 5 yards per carry. And Dave Wanstead threw the ball twice from the 2.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll did that. Dave Wanstead's a big fan of Pete Carroll. Dave Wanstead came back to college partially seeing what Pete Carroll did coming back to college and coaching at USC. So he thought, I can do that too. Just like Pete Carroll, although Pete Carroll wouldn't do it for another 10 years. He threw the ball at the goal line when he should just hand it off. Your workhorse back, hand the ball off. All right, we're going to close. Josh Newark says we need an episode just on bad Pitt coaching decisions. Brother, this is what we do every week.
I feel like July, whenever things get a little dry, we'll come up with some episodes like that.
We go over these things all the time because there's so much to choose from. There's so much to talk about. There's an endless wealth of options. All right. I think that we'll do it there. Everybody, we don't have to talk about the Navy game anymore. It was a lot of fun watching Pitt scrimmage videos of the basketball team. We had a good time with that tonight, talking recruiting and quarterbacks. Thanks, everybody who joined in. Thanks to everybody who was in the conversation and in the chat screen and watching the video tonight or watching throughout the week. Appreciate you changing up and joining us on a Tuesday night as opposed to Wednesday night. Jim, thanks for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Everybody stay tuned for coverage of the official visit weekend at Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe, and we will catch up with you tomorrow morning. We'll be back, I think, to our regular Wednesday night next week, but who knows? Things always change. But I can tell you that there will be a new episode of The Morning Pit tomorrow morning, so make sure you check that out right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.